Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. The past few weeks have brought welcome rain to Oklahoma, and the moisture has definitely lifted spirits across the agricultural community, something we certainly noticed at this year's meeting of the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association. There is a feeling of joy in the air as cattlemen and women from across the state come together in Oklahoma City for their annual convention.
To the cattle producers, the rain we got during the night and in the last several weeks have been million-dollar rains to them, because that means we're going to have grass. We have potential for wheat pasture for the first time in 3 years, and so they're optimistic. They've had to sell a lot of cows the last 2 years because of the drought, and now it gives them an opportunity with the rain that we've had. We're going to have a hay crop. Some already have their hay put up, and it gives us an opportunity to rebuild the cow herd hopefully this year and save back a few more replacements.
I do believe, though, we're going to see some challenges moving forward, because as you look at the availability of forage nationwide to our cow herd, that's going to be a challenge. Look, we'd rather graze grass. That's what we're grass farmers actually by nature, and we just use 4 legs and a ruminant to harvest that grass and produce a great tasting beef product. So when you're challenged in that sense, you sometimes have to downsize that herd, and we've seen that actually across the state.
Being back to the cow herd levels of the 1950s at about 29 million cows here in this country has given folks a reason to back up, reflect, look at where their operation may grow and or go directionally over the next 5 to 10 years. Mother Nature is beginning to cooperate with us, but all the signals indicate that it's going to take 2 to 3 years to begin to really see the rebuilding of the cow herd.
Meetings like this offer ranchers a chance to not only discuss these issues, but also challenges and opportunities presented by the up-and-coming millennial generation.
If you look at the math, there are about 80 million of them here in this country. They are significant because when you look at trying to move them from say 2 beef eating experiences a week to 3, that 1 beef eating experience per week, we think will have a profound effect on the growth of this industry. And that millennial consumer wants to trust not only that the product is safe, that it's nutritious, but they're really asking questions and need more confidence and ultimately trust around how that product is being raised. They want to have confidence that that great beef eating experience is produced in a way that's consistent with their values.
Daryl Peel, our livestock marketing specialist, joins us now. And Daryl, as we just saw, cattlemen and women pretty excited about all the rain we've had.
That's right. You know, conditions have changed dramatically in Oklahoma and in a number of other areas as well. With the rain we've had, forage conditions have improved a lot. We're rebuilding some hay supplies, which were severely drawn down over the last 2 years of drought. So, you know, conditions have changed a lot from a production standpoint, and that sets up a number of decisions on the part of producers in terms of rebuilding and so on.
And at the mid-year point now, you're looking at some of the numbers and some of the projections.
You know, because of the budget cuts this year, USDA did not produce a mid-year cattle inventory report, so we don't have any official estimates on where we are right now. However, working with the Livestock Marketing Information Center in Denver, we produced this week a set of numbers that we think would be close to what USDA might have come up with. It's a different methodology, so these are not official numbers, but we think overall cattle numbers are down. The all cattle inventory, as we project it, would be down. The beef cow herd clearly liquidated in the first half of the year. Cow slaughter was up. We think heifer retention was sort of abandoned because we did have some residual drought issues and a lot of winter issues, lack of hay and so on. And so the beef cow numbers were down in the first half of the year. Almost everything was down in our estimates, with the exception of the dairy cow inventory may have been up slightly. And that probably means, in terms of the beef cow herd, that we'll see this as a net liquidation year going into 2014 when we get to the official estimates we'll get for next January.
Okay, and then how are prices looking? There was optimism there as well when we talked to cattle producers.
You know, the feeder cattle markets in particular were on the defensive much of the first half of the year. Of course, we've been dealing with record high corn prices for this last crop year. We're looking ahead now to a much larger corn crop and significant relief on corn and feed prices in general. That is being reflected in feeder cattle markets. In addition, these tighter numbers, these smaller numbers that we just talked about, imply that feeder cattle supplies will continue to get tighter as we finish out this year and go into next year. And so we're going to see stronger prices for feeder cattle for the end of the year and certainly on into next year and really the year beyond at this point. We've got a long ways ahead to rebuild. We're going to see the supply side of this market very supportive to prices as we go forward.
Okay, and it's hard to believe we're rounding out August, but what are some of the other things you're looking at as we wind down the year? What are you thinking?
Well, you know, again, on the basis of these feeder cattle markets, obviously we still have some demand concerns. You know, wholesale beef prices will be challenged as well as fed cattle prices to go higher here in the last part of the year, and so that raises that demand concern again. But you know, if you look at it from a cow-calf standpoint, strong prices, better forage conditions, things look much more attractive now. We still have to manage costs, but lots of opportunity, I think, there. And also on the stocker cattle side, even though these prices are high and these lightweight cattle are getting very expensive, we have decent prospects at this point for some wheat pasture this fall. And actually, if you look at the margins right now, there's pretty good opportunity for these stocker cattle producers. And so I think there's some real opportunity on these grazing-based programs in particular as we go forward. There will continue to be challenges at the feedlot sector. They may have lower feed costs this year, but they're probably going to replace that with higher feeder cattle cost, and so there'll continue to be challenges at that level.
Okay, Daryl Peel, our livestock marketing specialist. Thanks a lot.
Fall calving is becoming increasingly more popular here in the Southern Plains, and for those herds that are going to have fall calves this year, the calving season may be closer than you think. You see, there's data that has come from here at Oklahoma State University where they looked at the gestation length of cows that were bred to calve either in pretty hot weather in August or cows that were bred to calve later in the fall in cooler weather in November and December. And what they found was that the gestation length of those cows that had the latter part of their pregnancy in hot weather, gestation length was considerably shorter. In this comparison across 2 years, 1 year the gestation length was actually 6 days shorter for those cows that were calving in the August time frame. The next year when they did the same study, the difference was 4 days. So if you kind of average those 2 years, expect cows that are going to calve this fall to calve on the average about 5 days shorter than what your gestation table in the book may say. That tells me that if we have planned for a September 1 starting date of our calving season this year, we'd better start expecting cows to calve as early as 10 days short of that. The reason, of course, is not only the average being shorter and coming earlier because of the gestating in hot weather, but just natural variation of gestation lengths. We'll have some cows that will calve as much as 5 days to a week earlier. So now's the time to make sure that we have our calving kit ready, that we certainly have our facilities in good shape to handle cows or heifers that need some assistance at calving time. And then about 10 days ahead of the expected first calving date, let's start watching those cows and heifers closely to assist those that might need some help. Keep that in mind this fall calving season. I think you'll save a few more calves and have a little more successful outcome to this calving season. And we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
This time last year, we talked a lot about the impact of drought on summer crops. But this year, it's the rain. SUNUP's Austin Moore takes us to a sorghum field day.
In Major County, just north of Homestead, we tagged along on a sorghum field day.
The sorghum crop in Oklahoma has increased over the last few years. You know, of course, the last 2 years we know the drought has damaged several crops, not just sorghum, and our acres went down. But the farmers are getting it into a rotation with wheat, and they're realizing the viable option of sorghum as a rotation crop.
It's amazing how much things look better when it rains.
The yellow sheet is a more extensive list.
Generally, the wettest period in Oklahoma is from mid-April to mid-June. Basically, this year that shifted back 2 months from mid-June to mid-August, so it's really affected some of our summer crops, even corn, grain sorghum here. Depending on when it was planted, it's going to really affect yields.
So while planting sorghum in Oklahoma in mid-May is generally not a good idea, this year, that crop will be the home run. And the weather has created even bigger challenges for our sorghum producers as fields are developing in two stages, one mature now and one that still needs more time.
Guys are going to have to make a decision whether the stuff that's already ready to harvest is going to be my best crop, or is the tillers, like example this right over here, the tillers is actually going to be the best crop, so we're going to have to wait on it. You look here on some of this, and like this one here, the early stuff is actually going to be the best crop. So we're going to have to make a decision sometime between the 20th of August and the 5th of September whether we're going to go in and condition that crop to try to facilitate harvest. We don't want to do that in late September and October because the Roundup's not as effective because some of our temperatures are lower. So it really, then you just got to wait on a freeze.
Crops aren't the only plants benefiting from the rain. And for more on that, I turn to Extension Area Agronomist Roger Gribble.
A lot of times when producers do some things that they hadn't anticipated, we'll walk ourselves into some problems. We had a really good wheat harvest, and after wheat harvest, excellent moisture conditions, and producers stepped out and planted what we call double crop options, mostly soybeans, but quite a bit of grain sorghum in northwest Oklahoma. When we don't take care of the weed problems after wheat harvest, then we're going to crop up and we're going to see these guys, and they're going to show their ugly heads.
So who are we seeing the most problems with?
Well, right now, pigweed is a huge issue for us, at least in this particular location. In some other locations, tall water hemp has been a real problem, specifically guys over in Kay and Noble County, where we have some resistance mechanisms working in those particular plants.
Okay. Now this weather and all has given you guys a chance though to do some research on these and try some different treatments. Talk us through what you're finding.
Well, we've had a chance to look at the treatment options that we have used over a period of time. And what's happened to us is over time, using those same treatment levels, we've got resistance plants that have developed in those traditional treatments. Now we're having to use some non-traditionals, but we try to tank mix into certain programs to pick up some of these escape guys that get away from us. And demonstrated here today, we looked at the traditional programs of atrazine and dual, and then we put those two together in a synergistic activity, and we can pick up quite a few of these escaped guys, but there's still some that get away from us in that. So now we've gone to adding in a third member into that take mix. So now we're using herbicide options that carry three formulations, three families of herbicides that give us control of escaped weeds.
All right, so now as we head forward though into the late part of the summer and really head towards fall, what can producers do if they've got this plant right here in their field? Is there anything they can do to treat it, or just you're stuck with it?
The field we're in right now is grain sorghum, and we're moving towards harvest at this particular point in time. We condition the crop, make or hasten the maturity of the grain sorghum, and we can burn these down to a harvestable level. But we're running out of options. We get into periods of time where a restriction on harvest date would minimize what we can do with these guys.
All right, so lessons from this year going forward for producers?
Well, we're really looking at tank mix options now to pick up some of these escaped weeds, and we're looking at it in pre-emergence fashion. We plant the crop, apply a pre-emergence herbicide, and that's given us pretty good control.
All right, Roger Gribble with Oklahoma State University.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet weather report. Rain, rain, more rain, and yes, more rain in Oklahoma this summer. A map of 30-day rainfall through Wednesday afternoon is simply amazing. The bright purple areas on the map have had more than 8 inches of rain over the last 30 days. The top recorded rainfall, Worcester in LaFleur County with 15 and 55/100 inches. Even some places in the Panhandle have had more than 8 inches of rain indicated by bright purple. The highest recorded rainfall for a Panhandle Mesonet site was Boise City with 5 and 35/100 inches. Looking at the rainfall for the last 30 days as a percent of normal, Most of Oklahoma has seen well over twice their normal rainfall. We've had near record rainfall in the last 30 days, yet the folks in Kansas and Missouri, in those purple areas on a national map, can boast that they have seen even more rain, some areas over 20 inches in the last 30 days. Going back to January 1st of this year, a percent of normal rainfall map has a blue bullseye covering Oklahoma County, West El Reno, and north past Kingfisher. At the center of this bullseye is the Oklahoma City West Mesonet site. A rainfall graph for Oklahoma City West shows what a difference 2013 has been from 2011. For all of 2011, the rainfall total was 25 85 inches, the gold graph line. Rainfall for 2013, the blue line, has already reached 41.5 inches of rain, with 4.5 months to go this calendar year. Adding in rainfall for 2012, the purple line, we can see that 2012 and 2013 matched up pretty close from January through May at the Oklahoma City West Mesonet site. But after June 1st, the graph line split markedly. In 2012, over the next 7 months, only a dozen more inches of rain fell, to finish the year with a total of 31 65 inches of rain. This year, over 18 inches of rain have fallen since June 1st. Along with the rain, we have had mild temperatures. That's lowering plant water demand. At Oklahoma City West this year, the peak estimated plant water demand, the green-filled line, has been just over 3/10 of an inch of water. The gold line, plant water demand in 2011, had many days over 3/10 and a few days in June over 4/10 of an inch. More rain and less water demand, our plants think they are living the easy life, as if they were in Nashville, Tennessee this summer. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Mesonet Weather Report.
Back on Monday, the WASDE report came out, and we have Kim Anderson here to go through the numbers and what all was in the WASDE report this year.
I don't think there were any surprises in the report. You got record world wheat production at 25.9 billion bushels. You got a record U.S. corn crop. Now, it was less than the market analyst had expected at 13.76 billion bushels. Corn ending stocks were at 1,840,000,000, slightly less than expectations. And wheat ending stocks for next year were projected to be 551 million bushels, which was relatively the low. You look at what's happened in the world on those reports over the last couple months. I think they've been all positive price-wise, maybe a little negative for corn, but not much, but definitely positive for wheat.
Okay, so those pluses and minuses can mean different things for different people. What does that mean for the markets right now?
Well, the market reaction was like they expected those numbers. Now, they didn't meet the pre-release expectations, but there wasn't much market reaction. Corn prices did get hammered down. They recovered a little bit from that. Wheat just ho-hum and just continues to waller around. Still above for wheat, right at the support level, but staying right, just barely above it. And we're watching that for the December contract.
Okay, you were talking about corn. There's still a lot of corn and sorghum in the fields across Oklahoma. What should producers be thinking about right now?
Well, I think they should be thinking about relatively low prices. You can look at the corn and sorghum prices. They're significantly lower than they were last year. With the massive production of feed grains, I don't think prices are going to recover very much.
Okay, now producers are thinking about planting canola and wheat in the next couple months. What do you think the prices are going to be like in June of 2014?
That's a long ways out, and a lot can happen, and I'm betting on a relatively large wheat crop next year. You got tight wheat stocks, so the wheat price could be in that $8 to $8.50 range. I'm predicting $6 for wheat. I think we're going to have we're going to definitely have supply. We're going to have a relatively large crop. With canola, looking at what's happening in canola markets in the July 14 canola contract, about $9.60 for canola.
Okay, there we go. We'll see how it turns out. Kim Anderson, Extension Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Hi, welcome to Shop Stop. Today we got a tip on how to install spark plugs in some of those hard to reach places.
Yeah, and it may not even be a spark plug. It could be just a bolt or anything, and what you can do is take a piece of tubing, and for example with a spark plug you can stick it in the end of it and just put it through a precarious place, and then you'll be able to turn it and get the thing started, and then just remove your hose.
So just an old piece of fuel line that you might have laying around, you might want to put it on the end of a dowel rod or some all thread, and then it's flexible enough you know, at the bottom that you can still get it into some tight spots and still turn it.
Yeah, so there's some good tips on how to get some spark plugs in, or some of those hard to reach places with some screws under the dash, for example, to help you out.
That's it this week on Shop Stop. We'll see you next time.
To Okfuskee County now to talk about prescribed burning. There are some new tools for landowners in the area. SUNUP intern Mindy Andrus has this story.
There's kind of a stigma associated with fire. Most people are kind of scared to use it, but in the right hands with proper training, it's something that anyone can utilize.
And the idea is education and just help people get out there and do it right, because fire is a beneficial tool.
I've got a lot of old pasture land that needs to be burnt, and hopefully get control of some of the brush and make the grazing better.
For centuries, fire has been essential to a healthy ecosystem, benefiting both grazing livestock and habitats for wildlife.
Without fire, it's going to be an uphill battle. It's extremely expensive once cedars are established to get them off the land, but with fire you can do it for pennies an acre.
There's a great need for it. The eastern red cedar is a huge problem in this county as it is well across the state, and lots of broadleaf weed problems, small brush problems, lots of issues like that.
And a possible solution just pulled into the Okfuskee County Extension Office parking lot. It is a cargo trailer full of equipment to ignite landowners' cooperation for improvement across the state.
What these trailers are what we call just kind of mobile burn trailers, and we've been giving them or donating them to the local prescribed burn associations that we have scattered around the state. And we've been able to get about 6 of these trailers out so far in the last 3 years.
Today we went up and picked up this trailer, and it was a pretty nice Christmas when we opened up the doors and saw what all was in here. It probably would have taken us 2 years just to bought the trailer, and then probably 5 years to get all the stuff in it.
It's just going to help them come up with ways of providing a safe burn that's going to not get out.
Everything's in one trailer ready to go. Everybody brings their stuff. We light the fire, load it back up, take it back to the office or take it to the next place for the next day.
We're going to provide education through the Extension Service and other ways where they can learn to do it the safe way and get rid of some of that fear.
With 95% of the land across Oklahoma privately owned, it is up to these landowners to utilize the options like the trailer from their local burn association.
I think if you're a responsible landowner, you want to say to yourself, you know what, I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave my land better, if not the best, that it can be in for future generations, because future generations won't have any of this to either see, experience, or utilize if they don't take care of it now.
One of the questions we get quite a bit are what are the main species out in these native hay meadows, and a good managed hay meadow is going to have a lot of the key prairie plants. The big 4 prairie plants are switchgrass, Indian grass, big blue stem, and little blue stem. Most hay meadows will not have much switchgrass because it elevates its growing point real early in the season, and if it gets cut off it doesn't come back that well. In this meadow we've got the 3 main species, Indian grass, big blue stem, and little blue stem, and that provides the bulk of this hay production out here. This is Indian grass. This is also the state grass of Oklahoma. Usually when you're out in a meadow, the first thing you'll notice there'll be some really bright blue grasses in that meadow, and that's generally Indian grass. Most of the time it has a real pretty sky blue color to it, greenish blue. And one of the key indicators on big blue stem is from this bottom part down, it's got a lot of hair or fuzz on it. It'll be as tall as Indian grass, but it'll be very hairy at the base, and that's one of the ways you can tell the difference. They're both very, very productive in this hay meadow. Okay, little blue stem is a little different than the other three main prairie grasses in the fact that it's a bunch grass rather than a rhizomatous grass. So it doesn't send out rhizomes, it just makes big clumps. And it's also a very productive grass, very high quality forage, makes really good hay. One of the things that's really important in a native hay meadow is to get out and take a look at it. Understand the plants that are out there. A lot of these plants that look like weeds or something really aren't at all. They're actually indicators of a very high quality meadow. Herbicides have no place in a properly managed native meadow. These wildflowers that are kind of showy contribute very little to the forage production out here, and so they're not hurting anything, but they provide a lot of diversity for wildlife and other animals. And it's very important that you get out and learn a few of these plants. We have a really good plant ID book that you can get from our website that outlines these plants and tells you quite a bit about them.
That'll do it for us this time. Remember, you can find our stories anytime online at sunup.okstate.edu. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Lyndall Stout. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.